Hello and welcome to patch 14.14. My name is Chris, and join with me is my patch review duo partner, Jason.
Hey, Chrissy. Yeah, here for 14 squared, ready to rumble. I like to call this one the unusual suspects. We've really got a lot of champions that get touched up here that we haven't seen on the patch notes for a while. No Zeri, no Yumi, no Aurelion Sol. Different champs.
No,
Never
they
mind, we
did
do
make
have Aurelion
changes to
Sol.
Aurelion Sol, yeah.
All right, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Alright, we got a bit of a smaller patch here today in terms of changes, but we do get a new champion at the end, which is always fun to talk about. Let's jump right into it, and first up on the chopping block, we've got Aphelios, with probably some long overdue buffs in my opinion, as I felt like he's kind of been lackluster, particularly in the laning phase for years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we disagree about whether he's actually like a lackluster champion. I always talk about that, 1v4 potential if you get the right setup. But yeah, no question about it. He's one of the weakest laners in the game, especially at level 1. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the
Um,
biggest takeaway from these is definitely going to be the bonus from Onslaught, because anyone that actually knows anything about Aphelios, you only know two things about him. You know his Q ability when he has Severum, and you know the little blow up thing on his ultimate when he has Infernum. And no one else knows anything else about his kit but those two things. So the
yes,
buff
I
to
think.
his Onslaught active right here is definitely way infinitely more significant than the similar buff to his other two offhand abilities.
I think that's fair to say. I think these are buffs to what, red, purple, and white guns.
It
But
doesn't
they're
really
they're
matter the
all.
color.
Yeah, and that's how I think of his 5 guns. I don't think of Crescendum and Gravitas and whatever. Um, yeah, these are all like I think really small buffs. I agree with you. Onslaught's probably the biggest one, but even that, you compare that to like a champion getting like 20% higher AP ratio on one of their core abilities. This to me isn't big.
Not big, but it's definitely good in my opinion.
You know who is big? Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, there's not much to say here other than really the.
Oh, that's a lot to say here.
Well, it's just kind of a nitpicky thing, so you can't
Uh,
dick with his Qs, so it makes it cost more mana consistently. I've played him a lot now. He's very much so just a very fun champion to play. It's just night and day compared to like the frustrating exercise of trying to actually get anything out of his pre-rework Aurelion Soul. So silly. I think
yeah,
obviously the big change is this buff to his ultimate, which I don't really think needed a buff because it just scales so well with the Stardust and the Shockwaves and all that jazz, but pretty
yeah.
cool.
So certainly right. That's a nice buff. I think that the big story here is probably the seriously increased range on Astral Flight. You know?
Well, you're kind of forced to max this last, and you're right to max it last because it's too important to max Q first, or you have like absolutely no presence in lane. And it's also
Mhm.
just important to max E second because you need it to
Stardust
farm
deck.
faster. So you're
Yeah,
always maxing W. And to
but
be
even with
honest, the fact that the Stardust adds to the range on this anyway, so even if you're maxing it last,
good point. Good point.
yeah, it
But still, before you've gotten the Stardust, even at level 3, right? That's a 25% buff, even at rank 1, before you start getting the rank scaling to the length of that flight. That's really good for chasing. That's pretty good for getaways, too. Get over more walls.
true.
To me, that's like the big story here. Breath of Light, it's a very slight nerf with the way that the mana works, but it's close to neutral. Like you said, nice little AP ratio on the ultimate.
The only crazy thing is just the cooldown on his W. I mean, keep in mind the old Aurelion Soul is basically had the same W, but that was like a full minute on the cooldown on that. and it did not reset on anything. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And man, you remember a few patches ago when they changed that to like an 8 second cooldown or something like really stupid like that?
Was it really that low?
I think it was like 12, right? But like with any reasonable level of ability haste, you'd be having it less than 8.
I gotta be honest, I feel like the downtime on his W is never really even a factor, because usually, whenever you need it, you basically already are going to achieve whatever you want with it, and if you ever want to leave, it's always up. And if you ever kill someone with it, it's always up again. So I feel like I've played him a lot of times now after his rework, and it feels like his W is never truly down.
Yeah. The one time it's down is if you use it to get in, and then you want to use it to get out, right? And that was, I think, why it was so busted
That was my point. If you use it to get in and you get a takedown, it's up again. So it's
if
like,
you get a takedown, sure.
Yeah.
But if you don't get a takedown, that's when you want to get out. Anyway, yeah. Nice buffs if you're an Aurelion Sol player. Obviously, I hate to see it. The Q is gonna be like slightly harder to just like keep toggling on and off just for a second to threaten someone now. But if you're using it to like really like blast somebody, or if you're using it to clear a wave, the slightly less mana cost per interval is gonna make up for that initial mana cost anyway. This is buffs overall, I'd say. Don't sleep on the fact that the shockwave damage is down by a little bit, though, right? So the ultimate is only buffed if you actually hit him with the whole star.
True, but the whole point of the shockwave is to guarantee everyone gets hit by it, so it collects Stardust from them. Not really the point of it dealing damage to them.
Yeah, no question about it. Like, this is nice.
If you got his super version of his ultimate and you hit all 5 people with it, it basically like gives you half the charge back to get to the super ultimate again.
Yeah, make no mistake. These are, quote unquote nice buffs for Aurelion Sol. I don't like them.
I don't really think he needs any changes right now, to be honest. I feel like with the amount of times his E has been nerfed, and it's still a good farming tool for his passive, I feel like he's actually just in a really good place right now. I mean, he has a real hard time early on. His Q doesn't do much early on, and it takes him a while to get going, and then he feels like a god late game, just like a lot of the other champs with infinite scaling stuff, He's a lot of fun. Alright, we're going to skip past the new champ and go right down to Bel'Veth.
Yep, we'll hit Aurora at the end of this video.
We got 25% less base range, but then she's getting it right back when she consumes a Void Coral, which is the passive on her ultimate. Well, one of the passives on her ultimate. It's got like 4 passives,
So this is almost the reverse Tryndamere. They're taking away basic attack range, and that's going to hurt her. The fact that she only gets that same amount back while she's transformed, which is, 5% of the game, 10% of the game?
I really don't like this, particularly because Bel'Veth was one of the most critical users of Lethal Tempo, and that also gave attack range. So only not did she lose that, and she triggered it like instantly with her E. So not only did she lose the attack range on that, but now she's losing more basic attack range. She really couldn't afford like this kind of loss in utility with like kind of the edge of a knife that this champion plays on,
Yeah, this is very rare that they take away basic attack range from a melee champion.
If they were going to do this, they should have made her ultimate give like not just 75, but like 125,
Right. I don't think that this is like a power thing per se, right? Maybe that she was just like too comfortable in a lane and they want to keep her in the jungle, would be my guess. I have no idea. This is bizarre to me. You have any idea where they might have wanted to do this?
Trust me, I tried laning her. It's not very good. You just don't get enough stacks. You have to jungle to get the stacks, or she doesn't translate to the late game,
Yeah, I don't think she doesn't even have like some like auto attack steroid that CCs you, does she?
Well, Not an auto attack. I mean, her W,
Right.
she slams the tail down and knocks you up. That's it.
Oh, right, but that's a skill shot. That has nothing to do with her attack range. So I'm trying
No.
to figure out, like, why do they feel the need to nerf her attack range? That's a curious one.
It seems pretty ignorant, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a rare thing. This isn't something that Riot just usually goes, let's do this with a champion. Right? This seems like it was something very intentional and specific.
You're
It's the
right.
only
This
nerf in the
isn't
game.
base attack damage. Yeah.
Right. This is really surprising. And there must be some reason that there was an unhealthy play pattern. I can't figure out what it was with Bell.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, so it's a head scratcher, not so much in the sense that it's dumb, as that I can't figure out what the purpose was.
Seems like the reverse should be happening with Lethal Tempo no longer in the game.
Oh, you are never gonna let Lethal Tempo go, man.
Well, one of the things people don't realize, Lethal Tempo, while it gave a shitload of attack speed, when it was maxed out, it would give melee and range champions more attack range, as well as attack speed.
There was such a long time where that was like a really good rune, and nobody used it.
People didn't realize. I never took it for granted. Never.
Neither did I. It always seemed overpowered to me.
I used to use that on Shen in the old days. I know. I stopped doing that when they add that health ratio to his ultimate, though.
You almost got through 2 patches in a row without mentioning Shen.
Well, you
That
said
would've been
something that backed me into a corner. You know. Okay, next up we got Brand, and we got less
brought up Lethal
damage.
Tempo.
What?
You brought up Lethal Tempo.
That's because it gives attack range, and it was relevant to her losing attack range. Derp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got less damage on Brand's already pathetic damage on his E, and an even higher cooldown. This one actually seems just as suspect as the Belveth change.
Yeah, I mean, the E is just the easiest, most skillless part of the kit to hit. It is so easy. You don't even need to be near the other champion. You just use it on something that you've already hit the minion wave with a W, and they're standing within 600 units of the minion wave, and they get tagged. This is a good place to hit Brand when he's in an overpowered state. I don't know that I would have said he was, but he probably was if they looked and said we need to nerf Brand. So yeah, just a little bit less damage, 5 at all levels, 1 second higher cooldown at all levels. This isn't gonna kill him. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of like, kind of like really heavy like super tanks in the game, and Brand is one of the few mages that's not a battle mage that can get through those super tanks because he has the percent health damage on his passive, as well as relatively low cooldowns on his core abilities.
Brand is one of those champions, and I think there's only like 10 or 15 of these champions. He's one of those champions that should never be changed for the entire rest of the game until they like bring the servers down. You know?
I don't know. I wouldn't mind them seeing. I wouldn't mind seeing them rework his E, for example. I mean, you know, you always talk about everything you hold dear will change. Why do you hold a Brand E that you point and click and it deals damage to them dear?
I don't think everything in the game has to be more complicated just because it's simple.
Damage skills should generally have some sort of skill to them.
Like, should we change Gangplank's Q because it's the same thing as Brand's E?
Well, no, auto attack. Q is the there's the parley, right?
Yeah.
So that's an auto attack that's an auto attack modifier.
Yeah, but it's just as.
I think it's fine to have auto.
It's the same thing as Brand's E, basically.
The way that you position and space for auto attacks is a little bit different. Yeah, I don't think we need to change Twisted Fate's W either. Although they seem to think they need to be changed every few patches.
Alright, next up we've got Cho'Gath with a pretty juicy buff here. Especially for the tank Cho'Gath. This is like one of the few abilities in the game that still does or has this much base damage. This goes back to like 15 years ago, basically. And this just does a little bit more damage like every couple years. This is pretty nice, especially for the tank Cho'Gaths of the world, which is kind of what this is directed towards.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with. Well, it'll actually help the AP Cho'Gaths too because it'll help them get over the spike. But yes, the base damage is even more important to the full tank Cho'Gaths. I don't have any problem with like a very slow tank's skill dealing insane amounts of base damage. This is fine. I like
Only
this.
thing I'm worried about is when you start getting numbers this good. This is when people are going to start playing him support. You know.
I don't think he's a terrible support, right? He brings the knock up, he brings several slows, and he can frontline for you.
And his ultimate is so powerful. When as soon as you hit 6, it's like one of the most powerful ults in the game.
Right, less important on support, but yeah, like I do think it's fine if he wants to play support with these like ridiculous base numbers. I I don't mind playing a Cho'Gath support like as Cho'Gath. I don't mind playing against it. I think it's like a pretty fair matchup in a lot of cases. The one thing I wish they would give Cho'Gath is just like make him feel less like like you're actually trying to control a real tank. Just make him like control a little bit smoother, a little bit more responsively.
Isn't that his charm? Come on.
Yeah, but it also feels awful.
Yeah, he's always been one of my favorite blind picks mid.
When blind pick, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess people don't usually see it coming.
Well, his passive is so obnoxious. A lot of the mages can't push you out of lane.
Sure, but that's why you might play him when you already see a mage, less so when you're blind, and if the opponent figures out that you might be Cho'Gath mid, they bring
he's also really good against the AD melee assassins too.
The assassins, yeah, but like Zed crushes him, Vayne crushes him.
No, he's good against. He's good against Zed.
Zed just pokes him forever.
His Q harass is not good enough.
I mean, it can be with Zed if you actually like hit the Qs over and over. Like, yeah, sure, Cho'Gath has pretty good resilience, but if he's gonna step up to actually, if the Zed like plays the minion wave,
Cho'Gath is like,
he's
like an ape. He's like kind of the Darius man of like, I don't know, whatever he is. Cho'Gath is very easy to make mistakes against, and everyone like kind of underestimates Cho'Gath because everyone knows his kit so well and he's so one-dimensional. But he's so easy to die to because his base numbers are so like insane.
Part of his problem is that even though he's like even though farming is super easy on Cho'Gath, if you're constantly being harassed as you try to farm, and your opponent is managing the wave well, you're basically dying by walking up and trying to farm the wave.
Really depends on the matchup.
Absolutely right.
I mean, like
if it's an opponent that can't make the wave push away from you, or that can't threaten you when you do walk up, sure, your gold is Cho.
I feel like Orianna is the only one that has enough poke to really be super annoying as far as mages go.
I think. As far as mages go, yeah. I mean, like Ahri over time can knock him down. But there's a few of them. I guess like Xerath or Vel'Koz late game would have a hard time pushing. Early game would have a hard time pushing him out of lane. But it's really a lot of those like cheesy, like Corki, for example, will easily push Cho'Gath out of lane in the mid lane.
I don't know. I feel like he surprises a lot of people with his
Lucian can do it. Akshan can do it. But yeah.
Lucian would probably be tough.
I wouldn't mind picking him into most mages. I just wouldn't want to pick him blind unless I had to. In the mid lane, I mean. Or in the top lane either, right? Because there's a lot of cheese being played in top lane now, too.
I actually just don't think he's good top.
Really?
No. Unless you're going up against another like dedicated tank like Ornn or something, I don't think he's good top. And that's just because there's too many things that go top that are just so aggressive so early. And he can't really fight too well against those all-in champions. Really,
he almost doesn't need to when he plays top lane. He almost doesn't need to. You just missed out on 15-20 CS. You let it eventually push under your turret. You give up a little bit of pressure on the void spawn. But once you get 6, right? Like or once you get a gank, like you're so dangerous, this Cho.
Alright, let's move on. Let's see, we got 30 less health from Corky. That's pretty exciting. Next up,
Yeah.
we've got Fiddlesticks. This is a little more interesting. Now his Q, and it always should have been, now it is a projectile. If you remember the old Fiddlesticks, his Q was simply a lock-on, just like Brand's E.
That's a while back.
Well, the rework wasn't that long ago. And now his Q, you can tell it's a super fast projectile, but now it will really behave like one. To be honest, it feels this would be really hard to block even if you were trying to, though.
Yeah, it's got pretty good speed on it. Obviously, like Samira wouldn't have such a hard time blocking that. I mean, Braum also, if he were the primary target.
Well, with how much better they made his like passive and ult, where he simply fears you if he hits you with an ability that if you didn't have vision of him.
Yeah.
It's so much better than how it used to be, where he had to tag you with his Q.
Yeah. If he's starting with his ult and you're already terrified, you're already feared because of that. Good luck trying to block this.
But you can't block it that way. You can only block it if he does the second or the first Q. So that's pretty cool. Alright, next up we've got Hecarim. We've got a little more health, but we got a little more healing from his W. But then it's going to last 20% less than it used to. But I would say that's overall a buff just for the amount of like burst that can happen, even if it's for 1 second shorter. I would say overall you're probably going to get more healing. Probably not early on where the damage isn't as fast. I think later in the game having 5% more might be better though.
Yeah, I think specifically what it'll be helpful in is Hecarim getting spiked down. Right, it'll give you a little bit more survivability. Make sure that in those first couple seconds you don't get spiked down real quick. In terms of the overall amount of healing, it's pretty neutral. Maybe a very slight buff. To be countered with the nerf on Devastating Charge, which now has a scaling cooldown. But since this is pretty much always the last skill that you're going to max, this is a nerf. Overall, I don't know. You do have 100 more health at level 18. That's nothing to sneeze at. Probably a very slight buff to Hecarim, and it's going to make him a little bit tankier with a little bit less movement.
Yep. Alright, next up we've got Aurelia, and we've got a little less AD per level, but we've got more attack speed as her passive ramps up. For the most part, I'm just fearful this will lead to more silly, like, 5 attack speed Aurelia builds, items, which are kind of goofy and kind of just fall on their face half the time.
Yeah, first of all, you're not really getting much more attack speed. At max rank, you're getting 20% more at max stacks. This is... Sorry, not at max rank. At max stacks, you're getting 20% more. Which is not really that good, especially considering I think the big story here is that the passive cooldown reduction for Blade Surge from leveling your ultimate has gone down significantly.
Yeah.
1.5 seconds instead of 2.5 at max rank means that on your core bread and butter ability, which only has a few seconds cooldown, you're getting 1 second higher cooldown in the late game, which is so important. This is a big nerf to me.
Well, for most of her rework, she didn't have this "oops, I fucked up" button if I didn't get the reset on my Q. So, having this at all in any value is a huge boon. Honestly.
Yes, but like, how often have you seen Aurelia been a terror lately? For me, not real often, and that's, I think she's always been a good champion, but like,
I think she's actually been kind of my kryptonite in the top lane. She doesn't really give Shen a hard time, but she gives a lot of my other stuff I like playing top. She's always been giving me a hard time, or I'm always playing against someone who I guess is pretty good, or she's just bonehead easy to play.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Well, it's some combination of them. Like I don't know. All time, I think of Aurelia, Aurelia and Mordekaiser are like the two champions that I almost never win against. In terms of like lane matchups, no matter what champion I'm playing, no matter where I'm playing them. But I don't know. Like if anything, I've seen Aurelius fail more often in the last like year, and I've seen probably fewer Aurelias in the last year than I can remember seeing
Well,
ever.
she's been nerfed like 5,000 times since she got reworked.
Yeah, so it's like another nerf. Dang.
Boy, was she nasty when she first got reworked.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she was able to like no sell so much damage with her W, and then just like how quickly she was surging around.
She had so many crazy scalings, you could just go full AP on her too, and it wasn't even stupid.
Mm-hmm.
She had so much sustain, so much extra attack speed, so much extra magic damage
Yeah, it was
on
like
hit.
what wasn't she good at?
And I believe her ultimate disarmed people originally too.
Yes, that's correct.
It
They were able
was
to
extra
auto
crazy.
attack, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with the nerf she's taken, like and with how it seems like more than ever before, she's not a terror, even to someone like me who or to you who say like she's my kryptonite. Yeah, this is I don't know. I still think that nerf on the ultimate is too much. And I don't think that giving her a little bit more attack speed, at max stacks is going to compensate at all.
All right. Next up, I see we've got Jax,
I'm
and
sorry, I don't speak fatigue. Want to say that again?
we got less of a cooldown, or I mean a higher cooldown on his stun early on. This is definitely going to make him slightly less annoying to play in the laning phase where people take this at level 1.
Yeah, I mean this is almost always the last skill you max on Jax, right? Usually,
You know,
you go
I don't actually
QE.
know that for a fact. You could really make a case for maxing either of his abilities, like first or second.
You definitely don't want to max Counter Strike first. You're doing no damage.
I mean, that's not necessarily true. He auto attacks so much, I don't think it's hugely consequential to have your Q or your W max first. Plus, the uptime on his E is, like, very strong in itself.
I think that would be insane, even with this, greater scaling and worse effect at level 1. Or rank 1, I could see the QW max. I could definitely, I would think that the correct move is the WQ max.
That's what I do.
I could even see WEQ if you want to be really creative. I think you're just inting if you max E first. What do I know though? Yeah, just make him less annoying. Jax is a great split pusher. Jax is a great split pusher. And honestly, he's like pretty decent in team fights too. He just has that rough early laning phase, and now he's gonna have an even rougher early laning phase. Really good champ to play into somebody that can't threaten you early. If you see like a Mundo or maybe a Cho'Gath on the other team, if you see a Nasus, Jax can counter that pretty well.
What?
What?
You would not
Yeah.
want to play Jax against Nasus.
Oh, you can absolutely play Jax against Nasus. He counter strikes as Nasus is gonna Q. And in
Yep.
addition to that, like late game, as much of a big boy as Nasus is, Jax is one of the few champions that can basically just stand there and take him down.
You're out of your damn mind. He'd
I'm not
probably
out of my damn mind. Play a top lane matchup, Chris Casey.
or he'd do good against Nasus for like 3 levels, and as soon as Nasus gets his ultimate, Jax would be so screwed.
And
And you just max Wither instead of Spirit Fire. There's nothing Jax could even fucking do. You just
Wither.
sit there with your lamp
Jax
post
just
up your
dunks on
ass.
him. If Nasus gets near Jax, I mean, oh my god.
You're out of your damn mind,
Play a
dude.
game of Rift.
Dude, I played a ton of Nasus.
I know,
Nasus
you haven't
shits
played
down
much Jax,
Jax's
though.
throat, man.
You gotta play more Jax. Not everybody is as good of a Nasus player as you are.
Everyone can bully Nasus like the first few levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jax is just one of those champions that never stops bullying Nasus.
That is just insanely silly.
Oh my god, you're just biased because like you never played Jax and you're a really good
You can
Nasus.
have like 100% uptime on Nasus's Wither without that much ability haste.
Who even cares?
Jax
Jax doesn't need Wither to leap.
Jax doesn't even like build like armor most of the time. You're so delusional,
He
dude.
does not need it. He just cuts right through Nasus.
No, he doesn't, man. Not when Nasus gets like 120 armor just from turning his ultimate on, dude.
All right. Let's look up the counter matchups for Nasus.
I'm sure he can give Nasus a hard time for like 6 or 7 minutes, but that's true of like Teemo. you know?
Yeah, but that's not going to change their win rate. I'm looking up Nasus and
I wouldn't believe it if
after normalizing both champions' win rates, Oh, okay. So Nasus wins 54% of the time, but after normalizing, it's a 1.5%. So in other words, like because like Nasus has a high win rate in the first place, as far as the counter ability, it's 1.5% in Nasus's favor. In fairness to you. I don't know. I still see a lot of Jax's crush Nasus's, but yep. Turns out like that's more the exception than the rule.
damn straight. Alright, next up we've got Jace, and we got a pretty juicy buff to his Q here. And keep in mind, when it goes through his acceleration gate, I believe it gets 40% stronger. That's not reflected here in these numbers, but this is even stronger going through the gate than when it used to. And that was already a pretty potent ability.
Yeah, I mean this is Jace's bread and butter, and this is also why Jace is not only a hard champion to balance, but is generally going to be a pretty useless champion to have on your team. The NA Jace memes. They're in a hard position, right? Because like a lot of the time, Jace's entire combo is put the little hex gate down, shock blast through it, and walk away.
That's Nidalee, man.
It's like the old Nidalee spears, exactly. And so if they buff the rest of his kit, it's almost like it does very little for him. Because even if he's doing more damage getting in with the rest of his kit, right? He's going to get in, he's going to try to do the damage, and he's going to explode immediately. If they buff this, it's going to get to the point where all he has to do is put down the Hex Gate and walk away, and he's an effective champion, and it's a reward for no risk. So it's really kind of a hard champion to design and balance. Definitely one I'd like to see get reworked. If they weren't going to do a full rework, what I'd actually like to see them do is give him like a lot of extra like armor and magic resist for a couple seconds when he dives in with his Thunder Hammer.
He's always had that, and I think
like,
they buffed that a couple times.
I don't think it's that much. I would like to see them give him like a lot more
it's not that
survivability.
much.
Yeah.
It's only like 5, 10, 15, 25 or something.
And I don't even know if it's specifically armor and magic resist. I'm looking now.
No, it is.
It is? Okay.
His R, when he goes to hammer, he gets the resistances, and when he goes to cannon, he gets the armor pen.
Oh, no. I mean, give Jace more armor and magic resist when he goes.
When he switches to hammer, he gets like 5 to 25 armor and MR or something like that.
I think he gets shred when he gets the hammer.
No, his first shot when he switches to cannon gets armor shred.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I think what he needs to really work as a champion is to get a lot more like defense when he goes in, and then they wouldn't have to move these shock blasts up to ridiculous levels. What do you think, man?
Do you like him more or less than Nidalee?
But definitely more than Nidalee. I mean, I would rather have, I'd rather have like a bad disease than a terminal one.
Because at least his Q can hit multiple people when it goes through the gate, Nidalee can't do that.
I'm never going to argue for Nidalee. I think we're in vigorous agreement here. I would rather, land on Park Place with 3 houses than Boardwalk with a hotel. I mean, Nidalee is the worst case scenario, right? Jace is just pretty bad.
Now, there's champions that I would prefer less than Nidalee in the jungle, like Shaco, for instance.
You're crazy.
Well, at least I know like Nidalee's going to be in the fight, even if she
Sure,
does.
Shaco will troll you,
Even
but like,
and
you know,
and if
Nidalee
you
will
get
just
Shaco,
stand
you
over
know he's
30
going to go
seconds
AP. So it's like what?
Shaco will stand there and like, you know, basically like backstab someone and then run away, and they try to chase him and they get feared and you can kill them. Nidalee runs in, throws a spear, misses the spear, goes in anyway, and hands the other team 300 gold.
Look, I'm not saying either of them are optimal. I prefer even amongst like the carry junglers like Rengar, Kha'Zix, who I would put way higher than those two.
Shaco is worse than Nidalee. We're not doing this on this channel.
No, man,
I will drop the call.
He's worse than Nidalee, man. I'm telling you.
I will drop the call.
It's not by much, mind you. I would put them very, very close together.
Okay. So, you don't embarrass yourself any further. Why don't you just talk about Jason?
I mean, I don't really know what a good change for him would be. Obviously, this is a buff, but like you said, he's already like a Q bot, so it's like, it's whatever. I think he's better with a gold lead than Nidalee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, who's not?
I think he's more oppressive with a gold advantage. Yeah. Whereas Nidalee, I feel like she needs too much setup. Jace's kit is more consistent.
For sure. And I mean, look, this is a buff that will actually help Jace. No question about it. It's just like, isn't enough to make him an effective champion. Almost at the point where it becomes enough to make him an effective champion, he's just a cheese bot. And I don't think he's there yet.
All right, next up we've got Kindred.
Oof, another terrible champ.
Would you rather have Shaco, Kindred, or Nidalee in the jungle?
It's not even a question, Shaco.
No, man.
I know you would take the Kindred, but it's not even a question.
I hate all three of them because Kindred was like the very first of let's start putting marksmen in the jungle amongst other silly things. She was the very first before they started doing that stupid shit. Big thing is, I feel like most people that play Kindred have actually fairly good like AD carry mechanics for whatever reason. Most Kindred players actually seem relatively competent. And make no mistake, if she gets those marks, Kindred is a terror in the late game. And, you don't really have to think too hard about how she's going to, like, contribute. Whereas Nidalee and Shaco, they're going to all play their mini games, and you don't know what you're going to get. Especially if Shaco's AP, he's going to spend half the game doing his mini games. So
you sound like a fool, man. Shaco can get in and actually assassinate someone, and then as they try to chase
if he's
him,
AD, if he's AD, he definitely. If I knew Shaco was going to go AD, I would
most
put it.
Most go AD crit now or AD lethality.
If I knew he was going to go AD crit and get like Infinity Edge Triforce or something, I would definitely put him higher. But that's
what Shaco's do now. There was a while people were doing the fucking cheese AP Shaco. I even there were those times where people were doing tank Shaco and it actually worked. But yeah, AD either crit or lethality seem to be the popular builds for him now, and I don't know, man. Like, I play more like ranked than you do these days, and he's actually pretty effective. You know who's not effective? Kindred. I'm sure Kindred's really good at the highest levels. Because not only, like you said, can she be occasionally a terror late game, she can actually be a real terror in the early mid game if she gets off to a strong start and gets a couple kills early.
Her E is absolutely stank nasty with stacks.
But 90% of the time, she gives up one kill early, and then she feeds the whole game. And then she uses ult in panic and just basically like saves an opponent while getting killed immediately after.
In Kindred's defense, I honestly have to say that her ultimate is probably the hardest ult to use in the game.
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
They need to put it back to where she could target it around herself instead of it always being down on herself.
You mean where you meant where she could target it anywhere?
Yeah, she used to be able to choose where the circle went down instead of it always being centered on herself. That was the
Yeah.
biggest mistake they ever made with her.
Well, that was actually insanely powerful and high level coordinated play.
I'm sure it is, but show is like things like Shen's ultimate, so
Uh, yes, but like the rest of Shen's kit wasn't insanely powerful and high level play. And Kindred's for somebody who really knows what they're doing with Kindred, at a high level where their team can work around trying to get her marks. I get it. At extremely skilled play, I would say master plus, right? Kindred can be a strong pick. For the other 99.95% of us, oh man, you pick Kindred, you're probably ending that game. It's like a 10% chance you'll run the game and a 90% chance you end.
don't misunderstand me. I'm not pro any of these junglers we've been talking about. I think they're all horseshit. I just think some are worse than the other. Give me like a Mumu any day of the week from 2009.
So with that said, like I hate to see more Kindred nerfs. Like this is painful.
Yeah,
This is
this
painful.
change to her Q is just ridiculous because this is the same amount she gets from one stack. So basically, she's just one stack behind now. So, kind of silly.
Yeah.
She
I mean,
starts with just negative one stack on her Q now.
yeah, and 15 less health means less early dueling, less potential to win the gank early, especially if there's a counter gank. Oh, this is painful. Please don't play Kindred in my games. PSA, please don't do that to me.
Alright, next up we've got what in my opinion is a kind of depressing change for Lilia. We got less sustain from affecting multiple people with your passive.
Much less her champions, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of a really cool thing she has going for her ever since they added sustain to that ability.
Uh-huh.
Which
And also a little bit less damage on the bowling ball.
yeah, that's acceptable because as the game goes on, it's all about the passive damage, so it's whatever.
I agree with you. The hit to the passive is a big story here. This will not affect her jungle sustain, but if you're hitting multiple champions with her passive, which remember every single ability that you use on an enemy champion will tag them with your passive, and it's very easy to over the course of a team fight hit 3 or 4 champions. So the fact that you're getting less than half of the healing from each subsequent champion beyond the first, that you're draining from the passive, the pollen that you're stacking on them. You're still doing the damage, but you're getting a lot less healing when you're hitting multiple champions, and that's the most skillful part of her play. So this is really sad to see. She's the type of champion that can really go in, be aggressive as long as she has just a little bit of tankiness to her build. And then get at when she's at 15-20% health because she's built up so much speed from her passive stacking up. First of all, really fun play pattern. But second of all, you can stay out of battle for several seconds and just passively get that healing as a reward from all those champions that you hit with your abilities. And then get right back in. At 50-60% health instead of 15% health. It's going to be a lot harder to do now. I don't think that this completely cripples her. Like, I still think she'll be a decent champion, but I don't think she's going to be very good anymore. I think this is
I think it's still, if she's like AP heavy, her passive will still like tear you up.
It'll tear you up, but it's not going to let her, survive and then get back into the fight for a second round. And I feel like that is a big thing. You think this is not as big as I think it is?
Oh no, I think it's a big deal for sure.
Yeah.
But I also think her damage is ridiculous in the late game.
No question about that. I'm not arguing it. But I feel like this brings her from like maybe A+ tier to maybe like B+. She's maybe even like a B. Like she's probably gonna be pretty well balanced after this. Honestly, I thought she's been strong for years.
I think she's pretty balanced. I don't really think
Yeah.
she needed any changes, honestly.
I didn't want to see her get changes because I love this champion. This might be my favorite jungler to have on my team. I think she's so much fun. The play patterns are very fair, very interactive. Simply you not only as Lilia you kind of know how to play her, but like you know what a Lilia on your team is gonna do.
I like her more than all the sillier champs we've been complaining about.
Well, I would ask you who your favorite champion to have jungling is, but it's probably Shen.
No, I don't. I used to do that a lot. It's not super good, but it's not bad. I mean,
Right.
CC is CC, and it's
Who's your favorite champion to have on your team? If you're, I don't know, you play top sometimes.
I play top and support the most right now. But
Yeah, let's
historically,
hear
I played mid
Who's
lane.
your favorite jungler to have?
Historically, I played mid lane the most. My favorite jungler?
Yeah. If you're not the one playing the jungler, who's your favorite jungler to have on your?
Well, I'm a very, very firm believer in like front to back, team comp. So I'm always for like a tankier top laner, jungler, and even like a mid laner. I'm a firm believer in the whole,
You like to have 3 fat slubs? Okay.
Yeah, you can have like an AP off tank in the mid lane and then have the top and mid
Do you
laner.
want like a Sejuani or something like that in the jungle?
I'd be perfectly happy with that. I'm happy with any of like the.
Yeah, I would never say no to those guys.
I'd be happy with most of the tankier bruisers, like Olaf. Jax and Jarvan are like my most played jungles. I like Warwick's very good.
Yeah. But I think Lily is just as disruptive as someone like Warwick, right? And honestly, almost as tanky.
No, I don't think she's as tanky as Warwick. No way.
You play her right? I mean, she.
Oh no, I've played her a lot.
Okay, let me say this: if you play her right, like she survives as long as Warwick does.
Yeah, but not by taking as much damage as him by weaving around a bunch, I guess you could say.
Exactly. But she also puts out more threat than Warwick does, and therefore, like, people are trying to hit her more.
That's because she does a lot more damage than Warwick. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why there's, like, that interesting trade-off, right? It's like, maybe she's not tanky per se, but she really still does completely fulfill that frontline role. I freaking love Lilia.
I played her top a bunch. She's actually really annoying.
I don't doubt that for 1 second. Yes.
She's like just ranged enough, but not. It's kind of.
I've never seen her. Probably because like there's you often go against ranged bot. But I was gonna say like I don't think I've ever seen her as like an AP carry bot, and I was wondering how that would go. Probably too much range against her to really be effective, right?
Yeah. Plus, she probably has like really hard for her to push. I imagine. I mean, her auto attack feels pathetic, which means you just be queuing nonstop, and you can't really keep doing that.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, top lane jungler, good in both roles. Mid lane, not a long enough lane to really use her speed advantage. Love her, and yeah, this is sad, but I still think she's gonna be at least an average champion, even after this nerf.
All right.
You know who won't be an average champion after his nerf?
Why don't you walk us through why Milo needed to only do like 5 damage on his passive early on or something?
Milio just got run over by a tank, dude.
I feel like... Remember when this champion first came out and we were talking about him instead of like we were talking about Aurora later? And the first thing I said is, this champion is going to be stupid good because of how well his trading patterns are going to be in the pro scene, and that's why he's going to get nerfed, and I stick true to that.
I think I was saying like he's going to be very good early, and I don't think he's going to be great late game.
Oh, absolutely. He is a pure like lane trading pattern like master, and it doesn't matter how shitty these numbers get. The fact that he can give movement speed, give damage on hit, increase attack range is so much leveraged to like 2 people working together really well.
Well, that was when he came out. I mean, it sounds like you still think it. I don't think he's good in any phase of the game anymore.
Well, yeah, now I think his passive used to do like 65%. Now it's 7 to 15. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it literally, like, before this patch, So they've nerfed almost.
I'm glad they keep making his
Actually,
Q stronger to
yeah.
make him feel good about himself.
Oh my god, yeah, they did. They did give him a couple of small buffs elsewhere, but his passive is the most important part of his kit. And oh my goodness, before this patch, his passive was like 25% of what it was. When it came out. Now it's like what, 12%? Of what of what it was when it came out. It's like 1/8 of the effect of when it came out. They've ground it down until it's nothing. They've reduced it to dust. They've demolished it.
You know, at this point, they made such an effort to minimize the impact of his passive. I think they should just add like an auxiliary effect or two to like his EW or his R, because obviously he needs something elsewhere to give him a reason to still go on.
This champ is just depressing. Yeah, it's nice that they buffed the Q. Like, the Q isn't that good for harass. Even though it has a high AP ratio, it's just not something that you can use as part of a full pattern. It would be like trying to be like an entire like harass champion as Bard. It's not really gonna work. And honestly, like Bard's still better at that than Milio is.
It's hilarious how much this champion makes Bard look S tier.
Yeah, exactly. The one good thing about the reduced cooldown and increased range on his Q is that it is a fairly good disengage tool. It can get an ally out of a sticky situation, and that's about all that it's good for. And both of these buffs will help him do that. I don't think you're particularly smart if you're building Milio AP, so I don't think that the increased ratio on warm hugs is really that beneficial, especially since you're losing base shields. This is just depressing, Chris.
I don't really feel like you're getting that much just building him straight up support either.
7% of the target's AD until you get to level 6. 7%. If you're with Caitlyn and her base AD is what, like 55 or something? Wow, you do an extra 3 damage with each auto attack. Wow.
Well, 3 plus 10.
Oh, it's 10 base damage. Still, oh my goodness. This is just so sad.
You'd have to play Jhin for this guy to feel impactful now.
Or
not even that.
What is it going to say on his gravestone?
I'll be honest, he wasn't even really popular when he came out. For good reason. He's just not a very exciting kit. Kind of feels like they were trying to recapture the magic of like Zilean or something, but just completely failed.
He was more popular than Renata Glask, though.
No, her ultimate is so cool. And then the revive. I feel like she had things that, even if so many things were stupid, she had things that made her a lot more interesting. Milio is such a abysmal, unexciting champion.
They were trying to make him an old school enchanter.
And when he first came out, I thought I was completely wrong. I thought his ultimate would make for these really cool game-saving, playmaking abilities, but it really just doesn't even seem impactful. And it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it can be hard to actually get into range to use it, and then by the time that you use it, it's almost like most of the time, the CC is almost over anyway. They've taken some of the really long, full disables like stuns and terrifies, either out of league or they've reduced their duration.
He should just if he tags someone with his ultimate, he should just give him like a chunk of armor and MR or something.
You know what Milio is? Milio is a champion that belongs in 2012.
He is pretty simplistic, yeah.
Pretty simplistic, and also is kind of designed around other champs having more simplistic playstyles.
But Aurelion Sol wasn't really in the game for that many years before he got reworked, I
think he got reworked twice.
Well, sort of. It was kind of a
I mean,
rejiggering. I wouldn't call it a rework.
I don't know. I think that when they changed his stars from the passive to the W, that's a pretty big change.
Oh, his old passive just stated what his W did. He didn't really have a passive.
Kind of, but like
Which was
actually
normal back
moving
then.
around the W to like a high range and a low range was a big game changer to his kit. It just didn't
No,
make him
that's
an
how his
interesting.
That's how his W worked when he first came out. What you mean? What they did is
No, when he first came out, I think they were fixed in a very small orbit around him.
no.
I think the
When he
W
first
just
came
no.
out, you could toggle the W. What they changed is the W would always retract after a couple seconds, and he would get a speed up.
You're right.
And you'd have to keep sending them back out, which was fucking stupid.
You're right, man. Yeah.
It used to be a toggle, which made it really good because you could keep them out the whole time at each
Yeah, it
mana.
became a normal like skill that you use. Man, how are we ever going to get to the new champion if we keep doing this?
I'm just saying it wouldn't be unprecedented for a champion to get reworked not too long after they got into the game.
Yeah, you would like to see Millia reworked? Because I would certainly like to see it.
I mean, this is getting pretty pathetic at this point. I mean, even Yumi still has a lot of uses with all the changes she's gotten, and this is just stupid.
Yeah,
There's
maybe
nothing
just,
that's exciting anymore, you know? I mean, it's like giving someone attack range is powerful. His Q keeps getting buffed, but, like we said, he's not Bard. Bard needed 1,000,000 buffs before he stopped being a corpse. And, his ultimate's just doesn't do enough, and the hugs is very, derivative and kind of, not the greatest,
Okay, how about this? Maybe he one of his skills sends out some of his little flame buddies, Fuemigos, good one, right? Sends out some of his flame buddies, and you have to basically try to follow another champ around with them. And what that does is your allies have higher attack range as you're successfully following them around.
I think it's honestly simpler than that. If it feels like what they've done is they've taken a lot of power out of his passive, but they haven't compensated him by putting a lot of power into other things. And no, just making his Q stronger, I don't think really counts because it's like whatever. Yeah,
The other thing is basically click an ally and they do something slightly better.
What I'm saying is they haven't compensated him from the power he's lost on his passive.
That's definitely true. But I don't think that compensating him with more power elsewhere, just like raising the numbers, is going to make him any more interesting either.
I definitely don't think it's going to make him more interesting, but it's going to make him more viable.
Speaking of not very viable, who's next, Chrissy?
We got some changes to Nidalee here, where she's getting a rebuff to her ancient hybrid scalings that have come and gone more than a couple times.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I'm actually forgetting what the normal build is on Nidalee now. Does she go hybrid or does she go AD?
No, you just go full AP now.
You still go full AP? So this is awful, then. This is enough.
You just go, something in Lichbane. You always got to get Lichbane because it makes her pounce, or not pounce, her takedown ridiculous.
Now, with that said, these are big bonus AD ratios. 50% on pounce, 30% extra on swipe. Means that in your full combo, you're getting an 80% of whatever your bonus AD is out. That's significant.
You'd think so, but trust me, there's no universe that exists anymore where Nidalee can go AD, or is building bonus AD.
Feel like I have seen her go hybrid or AD, but again, I see her so rarely.
Hybrid with what?
So little when I do.
Hybrid with what? It's not like there's Hextech Gunblade in the game anymore. There's nothing to go hybrid with anymore. They've saturated everything into just AD and AP now.
Trying to think whether it was no, I don't think it was a Rage Blade. Yeah, I don't think it was the Nashor's Tooth either.
Time was you could go Triforce and Split Push and stuff like that. And, that was back when her Cougar form would give her movement speed and a lot of resistances, and there was a good argument for going tanky AD. Now you just be a goofball for doing that.
They got rid of Flowerless Claw, didn't they? I felt like I had seen that on her. That must have been before this season.
Until they give her Spear Throw and AD scaling, there's no point in going AD.
Right now, the spear is 0.
Doesn't scale with AD.
Right. So yeah, I have to agree with you. There's kind of no point, and that's just sad.
If they made it
Um,
a percentage of her total AD, at least then she'd have some oomph.
right.
But
That would
with
be well. That would be
bonus,
free damage, right? Because even if you're not building AD, you're gonna have AD automatically by late game. Sure. That would be like increasing the base damage essentially. But no, they reduced the base damage. They reduced the AP ratio. They seem to have made her even worse. Um,
the important thing is they didn't touch either part of her Q, which is her whole reason for being.
it's really not anymore. Like her Q doesn't do a lot of damage.
No, it still does a lot.
It doesn't do a lot.
It does a lot.
It doesn't do a lot. Great analysis from us.
The spear does a ton, and if they're marked, the takedown does
Oh
a
my god,
ton.
like a Xerath Q will do more. And he can use it every 3 seconds from a longer range. And it has a much wider hitbox. The actual like width of the Nidalee missile, I think, is 25. Like they made it like impossibly small.
If she does both parts of her Q, it does way more than Zera's Q.
Both parts of the Q isn't just the spear.
And her spear definitely does more than Zera's Q. That's ridiculous comparison. Zera's Q doesn't even have a... Zera's Q doesn't even... You can... Dude, I don't need to know the numbers because I know Zera's Q doesn't even do 100% AP. Nidalee's does like 175 or at max range or something crazy.
No. Javelin Toss does 150 plus 50% AP. Okay, plus up to 200% based on distance travel.
Okay, that's even more. That's even more than what I thought it was. Shit.
But most of the time, it doesn't travel the whole distance.
Xerath is like 80% or 70% or something.
But that's only 150 minimum damage. All right, let's look up Xerath real quick.
I played it.
Everybody who's watching this.
I've played a ton of Xerath. His is only like 70 or 80 with Arcano Pulse or whatever the hell is.
He has much more AP than Nidalee does. He's going to be able to build much. Arcano Pulse is 230 magic damage, although granted it doesn't scale with anything. Plus 85% AP.
You honestly thought Xerath's Q did more than Nidalee's Spear? That's ridiculous, dude.
I mean, it's going to at most, unless Nidalee is hitting it at like max range.
Xerath be beyond busted.
I guess if you're beyond like 1,000 range, Nidalee's Spear can do more. But Xerath is using it every couple seconds, and it's much easier to hit.
Yeah, I don't argue that.
Yeah.
I think Xerath is infinitely better than Nidalee.
Oh, of course. I mean, who's not?
Time has been good to Xerath, man.
I don't know about that. Like, Xerath doesn't like all the mobility creep in the game.
Yeah, but they make his ultimate stronger like every 6 months.
Oh my god, yeah, they keep like 3 hits, 5 hits, 11 hits.
And his W, I think, got a fat-ass buff too not that long ago, and it was already ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Now it does over 100% in the center, and that's just silly.
Yeah, just poor Nidalee. Can't do anything right. If she's not already building AD, and maybe I'm just having a stroke thinking that she was sometimes building AD in lethality. If she's not already building AD, I don't think this is gonna push her into doing so. Because, like you said, without the spear having an AD ratio, why is it worth building? And then the other problem, right, is that if you're only throwing the spears, right, you can't be effective. It's the Jace problem, but it's a much worse form of the Jace problem.
Exactly.
This is frustrating.
If they just give her resistances back in Cougar form and add an AD ratio to her spear, maybe things could change.
I mean, certainly if she had an AD ratio on her spear along with these other, pretty decent AD ratios elsewhere.
Because the AD scaling on her takedown is truly magnificent, so it's a shame she doesn't really have anything else that's nearly as good.
And you think like if they keep nerfing her, right? It's got to be because she's very strong at the at the Master Plus levels of play. Where you can
She really doesn't seem like the type of champion that's multifaceted enough to be attracted to the pro scene. Kind of the same reason you'd never see Shaco in the pro scene, you know?
I know what you mean, but you don't even need to be multifaceted. All you need to do is be able to duel and gank very strongly in the early game. And like the pros are so good at ballooning a 2,000 gold lead, at 15 minutes into an unbeatable, insurmountable lead later on.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That I think champs like Nidalee are popular if they're in a quote unquote strong state. Man, like for all the other levels of play, this is just pathetic.
Alright, enough dumpstering on Nidalee.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to Rumble. Tell me what happened here.
Okay, looks like they reduced the damage of Flame Spitter. They gave you a little bit better. Oh, they significantly reduced the damage of Flame Spitter at the earlier levels. They did give you better. What do you call it? They gave you better minion damage in the first couple levels to boot. This is a nerf all around, and my guess is that they did this only because he was putting out too much threat at like level 1, 2, 3. Before you start maxing the Flame Spitter anyway. He was probably just too much of a cheese lord at level 2.
He's definitely not that good of a cheese lord compared to the things that go top these days.
I don't know, like you get into the right combo. I've seen him get a lot of kills literally at level 1 before the landing even starts.
I don't know what he's laning against, but having played a lot of Rumble myself over the years, his Q, I mean, it's strong, and it's stronger when his passive is higher, but it doesn't have like the all-in potential just by nature of its super long. It's kind of like Vladimir. Early on, his Q has a really high cooldown, and you can't get to the danger zone without your W and your E constantly, with just your Q anymore. So there's just so many champions who have way more all-in potential early on than Rumble.
Yeah, but with
just
that
about
said,
every one of them, honestly, that go top.
With that said, like the Q lasts a long time, and you don't have a lot of health at level 1. So if you can get all the ticks off of it, it's doing like half of your health bar.
It doesn't do that much.
Maybe not quite half, but half plus a couple autos, it's doing half of your health.
Alright, next up we've got a juicy buff to Sion, who now just gets the rank 5 damage all day long when his soul or his shield explodes.
Yeah, so this has nothing to do with the health stacking passive on Soul Furnace, but for the active, the shield that you get and the damage that you deal. This is a nice little increase to it while you're not rank 5.
Yep. Very juicy.
Mm-hmm.
And then next up on Smolder's little move quick. Oh no, wait, this is his Q, not his E.
Yeah, this is a bread and butter ability that will hit a lot of times later on.
Well, this is something. I still think Smolder's garbage, but whatever.
5 extra damage on every single little hit. Or at least 5 extra damage on the first, plus a little bit of extra damage on every single little hit beyond the first. As he levels up his dragon practice stacks, is significant. I think this is a bigger change than it looks like, and it should not be slept on.
It's definitely nice, but I think Smolder needs a lot of help to get back to the realm of feels good to play.
I haven't seen Smolder in months.
I think he sucks. I think he sucked since he came out. He sucked the second he came out, and he's only sucked since then. They've made a couple good changes, like with his ultimate and scaling and some of his ratios. But like I was bitching about when we first started reading about him, the one thing they need to address, they have never addressed, and that's just how goddamn long it takes him to stack his stuff up. It takes him like at least 25 minutes to get to the final form of his Q, man.
I have no problem with it taking that long. I just think that he should be less weak early.
Oh, his laning
You can do
phase
either
is
one.
more pathetic than like Senna's or something, man. It's
Yes.
or who was that other one that sucked?
Aphelios.
No, worse than is it Neela? Hers is pretty weak too. No, who?
Nyla has a really good all-in early. I mean, she has
Oh
a tough time
no,
because she's a melee champ.
it was Zeri. Yeah, Zeri and Senna. Yeah, they're really
It's
weak
very
early.
weird.
But yeah, he's worse than all of them because he doesn't even have the range. You know, it's just, that's another
Yeah, I
crazy
mean,
thing. Why is his Q a shorter range than his auto? It's ridiculous. His Q needs to be a longer range, needs to be
he's
more
something that could be
abusable.
a useful tool for harass, but like it just does so little damage until you get those stacks up. Yeah.
Oh, that's my point. If you could get more Qs off risk free by it being like 50, 100, 150 more range, it would feel better about how fast you could stack up and stuff. He has so many problems, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would like to see them increase the base damage and maybe take away the reward for stacking a little bit on the Q. Because when you're using this at 0 or even 25 stacks, I mean you're getting so little benefit until you get the 125 stacks.
They need to make him get 2 instead of 1 stack for hitting champions. And they need to increase the range on his Q. Fixed.
He's like Gangplank, but worse.
That's a pretty tough comparison, honestly. They're very, very different champs.
Yeah, I mean, he just has a hard time with poke patterns early. He's very bullyable. And then he does eventually scale into something that can hit a really long range, like Gangplank can with his multiple barrels, and do a lot of damage with it. But it's just to have that as your ADC, if you want to call it that. It just makes for a really rough bot side of the map. I don't know. Who would you compare him to? I don't think Zeri is a good comparison.
I mean, there's not really another 80 carry that couldn't at some point had relied on something like lethal tempo.
Oh, get out of here, man.
Well, you know what? It was a mainstay of the game for a long time, dude. So, a lot of these things, I got to bring back to the power that's missing in the game.
All right, I'm going to quote your hero. I'm going to quote your greatest hero, George W. Bush. I think we can agree.
I hate Bush.
Is over.
I don't like Bush. I guess the closest thing you can compare him to is Corki because he has kind of a similar play style, except old Corki at least had so much more built-in like synergy that I don't even think that's a good comparison. There's really I don't really think
you're comparing George W. Bush to Corki.
I don't really think there's a good comparison. He's uniquely garbage.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Smolder can be an absolute terror later on. It's just you are right. It takes him too long to get there for the weakness and the pain early on.
I'll say this is the best way I can think to describe it. He has all the problems that Aurelion Sol doesn't, while having basically the same gameplay.
Yeah.
Like Aurelion Sol has the struggle session too, but the payoff.
Yeah.
All right, let's stop whining about that fool. Let's see. Let's move on to Tristana because this is interesting too now. Now, a couple of my friends have told me that not to bring it up again, but now that Lethal Tempo is not in the game, a couple of my friends have told me that now Tristana is like the king now because she basically is the person that still has Lethal Tempo because of her Q and because of Navori, Flicker, Fucker, Blade, whatever they want to call it these days. And that basically just resets her Q. And now because of this, I guess that got hit. That's what a couple of my friends have said.
Yeah, they're nerfing this a little bit at all levels. They're nerfing her ability to fire really fast. As long as you're maxing this, I mean, look, 110% extra attack speed instead of 125, not that bad. the mana cost on it is going to make it harder to wave clear early on, or at least to wave clear it by pushing early on. To kind of fast push reset. She gets a little bit more base mana and a little bit cheaper of a rocket jump to compensate, but that's not quite going to compensate if what we were trying to do was push and back to refill your mana. Overall nerf, Tristana is really like a champ with a lot of good tools, and I think the worst part of Tristana is that they have not modernized her feel or her mechanics. So, like, it's very clumsy to try and lock on to other champions, to try and target them with certain abilities like your E. Easy to put it on the wrong person. In addition to that, her W has some weird kind of like buffering where you can get hit in the middle and just knocked down. They just need to modernize her feel a little bit, and I think she'll be a very good champion. Even right now, she's not bad.
Well, she did get that like kind of a gameplay update several years ago where she feels a lot better than her OG Tristana that you used to be able to go AP with. I like Tristana.
Yeah, they gave her like new tools, like where you could like explode the E and get like a free W, but I don't think they actually changed her handling.
No, she got like a complete animation and visual update when that happened.
Okay. I still don't think they changed her handling, though.
Well, you definitely don't want to max... You have to max your E first, or you're not a cheese lord in the laning phase.
Yeah. I honestly think you can max either one. E's probably the way to go most of the time.
If you max your E later, you kind of lose out on the part of the game where it's like absolutely obnoxious AD ratio that it has.
It depends on who you're playing against. Like, you can't be a cheese lord if the opponent team is playing smart, and poking you and only like moving way into the wave where you can get into an engage range, when you can't all in them. Like Tristana, gets one of the highest auto attack ranges in the game later on, but early on. I mean, granted, she can put out the damage, but she has short range. So if the opponent is positioning correctly, or they have the champions to back off, a Janna, a Lulu, something like that, Tristana can't really be a cheese lord into that. What she can be is a serious, just auto attack, move around the fight, king me kind of threat later on. And so I think that if that's the way that the game is going, Q is probably the smarter max. Especially with the way that the rank 1 has been nerfed here in this patch. But yeah, I think in general, you're right that E is the smarter max. I do think it depends on the context, though.
I don't think I've ever laned against like a conservative Tristana before. That's like Draven not just running up like a madman and all-inning you every 5 seconds,
Right, although I've definitely laned with smart Tristanas, right, who like want to play aggressively, but if the opponent is not giving them the opportunity, they'll just take the waves, right? They'll just take the pressure, and then we'll group up for the fights around Dragon.
Guess it really depends on the support pick, though.
Yeah, it depends on all of the context. I think how the Tristana is supposed to play. I think even more than most champions, and what she should be maxing first.
Alright, next on with Zed, we've got another in a long line of buffs to his Q, and another one. We got 10 more damage early on and 10 more later on. Which he already has a feisty early game.
He does. Yeah, just 10 extra damage at all levels. I think that the biggest story here, though, is you're getting even more cooldown reduction on your Shadow Slash when you hit... Basically, if you hit one enemy champion, once you have a couple ranks in this ability, it is immediately off cooldown automatically now.
You'd think so, but of the silly AD assassins, Zed is the one I play the most. And to be honest, this is kind of the least utilized part of his entire kit. And no, it is hard. His Shadow Slash is kind of a small circle. You definitely you never actually go out of your way to try to hit like 3 or 4 people with just his E.
Well, you only need to hit one champion now in order to
yes.
completely reduce it to 0.
What? No.
Yes.
His
Rank
living
5. Go on.
the cooldown is living shadow is way too high to reduce to get like a instant refund only hitting one person with shadow
Oh,
slash.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood this. Yeah, I thought it was reducing its own cooldown, not living shadows. Okay. I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, so it is per champion hit, and that is cool. If you can hit 2, 3 champions, you're like, reducing
Yeah,
living
the
shadows.
problem is that's like
Yeah,
never your objective, you know.
I'm sorry. I read that wrong. Yeah,
It's a
yeah. Okay.
luxury kind of thing only, you
Still a
know.
nice buff, though. Still nice. But yeah, 10 extra damage at all levels for the laning phase makes him even more of a kind of an oppressive champion if you can't get out of the way or deal the damage back. Nice buffs for that. We've seen a lot of buffs for Zed this year. Like, I would consider him one of the unusual suspects. Like Tristana, for example, we haven't seen much in the patch notes in years. But yeah, Zed we went years, and maybe we would see him if we were lucky once a year in the patch notes.
Well,
And unless,
Zed's kind of like the misfortune of mid laners. He's like the lazy bastard's assassin. So you want to have like kind of like how Garen or Darius is the lazy bastard's top laner. You want to have that one champion who just keeps getting some love to encourage the lazy people to try to like learn a new position. You're like, oh, I'm going top. I'm going top now, Bob and Frank. Oh, and okay, John, go pick up Darius. So just like mid lane or bot lane with Misfortune or Ezreal, you'd be like, well, mid lane, you're like, okay, Frank, go try Zed. And that's how it happens.
yeah.
Zed's that champion mid. Although I think he has a way higher ceiling of skill than any of those other champions I mentioned, but he's also the easiest to like kind of get going.
Yeah, certainly like easier than like Kiana or something.
I definitely can't play a really good Zed. Okay, next up, and finally we've got Zyra, and this is a change to her passive, and she's going to spawn plants ever so slightly faster.
Yeah, these are touch-ups, just tiny little touch-ups. Honestly, I don't think it's really worth talking about. You see anything big here?
Well, let's see. We lost 1 base damage, but we gained 2% AP. Yeah. You feeling the support over here?
I don't think that any of this is significant. That's what I think.
Yeah, it feels pretty nitpicking. I wonder what the riot note said about this one. Well, you know, we've been had our eye on this one for a long time.
Yeah, we planted this seed a long time ago.
You're right. Some stupid fucking tree joke or some crap, right? We really felt that she needed 0.17 faster seeds because that's when raptors spawn or something.
And next we have Warmog's armor.
Yeah, this really hurts for the ARAM crowd out there. Anything to delay your regen on your Warmogs, man, it stings. Jokes aside, though, Sejuani is basically the only champion in the game that gets this first. It's really kind of a get second or get sixth item. So it's not really a big deal if they change it. Even if they change it to 2,000, just by nature of when you buy Warmogs, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, when they buffed Warmogs to 1,000 bonus health, like I think that I think that they made it into a really good item. And even like you said, even if you there were ways you could build this first when it was 1,300 with 1,000 bonus health, or before that it had 800 bonus health, but it was 1,100 that you needed. There were ways with your runes, you could basically just buy a ruby crystal and activate it, depending on what your runes were. So that was kind of cool, and that's gone now. But yeah, as a second item, I think this is still absolutely serving its purpose. You can get a few hundred bonus health, even from like a bonus health and armor type of item. You don't need another one that really focuses on the health. It's gonna do what you want it to do.
Mm.
Not such
Enjoy
a
it
big
while you can, because one day this item will probably be gone. One day they're gonna come out with the same shit rationale that they got rid of Lethal Tempo. Or like, oh, we don't like the fact that this item gave everyone regen and it was just warping the game by its very just to get rid of Warmogs.
So weird. Are you done?
Yeah, man. You're gonna hear the same bullshit line. We're like, this item's been in the game for 15 fucking years, but it's warping the meta now, though. Yeah.
Have you ever tried out to be a voice actor?
You go. What do you think about Warmog's future? Can it continue giving sustain?
Well, what I find kind of weird is that I think they turned it into this super sustain item because I think it used to be 1% of your maximum health per couple of seconds before they reworked it. This was many seasons ago. It was the same time that they basically got rid of health regen being an effective stat. Health regen used to be a flat thing that you could actually get like 15, 20 health regen per 5 seconds. And then they changed it to be a percentage of your base health regen, which is always crappy. And at the same time, or a similar time, they made Warmog's armor like a really, really good health regen item once you get to that level of bonus health. And so I feel like in the world of health regen sucks, they wanted to have this like one core way to get it, which is Warmog's armor. So I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't know how much health it used to regenerate out of combat in the olden times, but it was always enough to top you off between fights. And all I know is that when I was in high school, this item gave 1500 health instead of needing 1500 health to work. Now that's inflation.
In fairness, it used to. Wait, you said that Warmog's armor used to give 1500 bonus health?
Yeah, it used to work just like Bloodthirster, where you needed to kill things to get the most stats out of it, and it stacked up, and it would give 1500 after you got like 50 CS. Bloodthirster would work the same way, where it would give you 100 AD if you killed things.
Kind of like when the stupid like Banshee's Veil successor or predecessor, the thing that builds into it, used to like require you to kill stuff to get like magic to get armor, or magic resist, and the Seeker's Arm Guard used to require you to kill stuff to get armor.
Oh, the necklace thing you're talking about.
Yeah, similar to that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that.
I'm glad they got rid of those.
I don't think it was a big deal one way or the other.
Anyway,
why don't you tell us about the impacts of these rune changes? All of them, right now.
All one of them. Okay. This is terrible if you want to use Absorbed Life. They've made it go from a pretty weak rune to a useless one. It looks, if you're thinking like it's just a straight scaling from 1 to 23, you think, oh, this actually isn't too bad. By the time I get to like level 6 or 7, it's breaking even. Nope, they changed the formula too. So now not only in the first like couple levels are you getting like 1, you're getting 1 at level 1, and 2 at level 2, 3 at level 3, and then it starts scaling pretty poorly into the mid game. This is awful. So basically, you're getting a little bit less healing every time that you kill a unit, which obviously the only time you care about that is the early game. In the late game, if you're trying to sustain yourself through pushes, you have some type of lifesteal either in your items or in your kit. So the only time that like Absorb Life is really going to help you is those first like 6 or 7 levels in LAN. And because of the way they changed the formula, you don't actually break even on this rune until level 11 is what you need to be at to break even on this rune with the changes. So just a straight nerf to Absorb Life, which was already kind of a dicey rune. What else can I say?
I think you laid it out pretty good right there.
I don't get that from you a lot.
It's That 3 extra HP isn't going to serve you very well at level 18.
Exactly. Um, exactly. By the time you get into the late game and it actually manages to break even, you have much more important things in your kit for sustain. Your kit or your build, one of the two.
Yep. Might
If
as
you don't,
well.
why are you taking Absorb Life?
They should probably buff Fleet Footwork next patch then. Shit. Maybe that was the whole point. They both need to suck.
Fleet Footwork is a Keystone round, right?
Yeah, but they're both in the precision tree.
You're saying that you just want to get rid of all of the sustain from precision?
Oh, no. I'm saying that if they're going to make this worse, maybe they should make that better. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. I certainly wouldn't mind them seeing wouldn't mind seeing them buff Fleet Footwork with all the nerfs it's gotten. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, me neither. 'Cause that thing's been nerfed like 17 times.
Yeah. All right, that's all we got. Right before we talk about the new champ, I just wanted to ask you: have you had the chance to play the new mode?
The swarm thing?
Yeah, Swarm.
No, it looked kind of dumb, so I was like, no. Plus, in my heart of hearts, I knew it was just going to be reused assets and probably be the same thing as the Star Guardian invasion thing, so I was like,
I was hoping it was going to be the same.
how much do I really want to see reused assets? And I decided I don't really need to see reused assets, so.
It looks kind of like an invasion. I was hoping it was going to be invasion. It's Vampire Survivors, I think. It's basically like Vampire Survivors and all of its clones. With a pretty cool map and and a lot of different champions that have different abilities that do matter. So I think it's like a sort of cool mode. I enjoy it. I've played I think 4 games of it so far. I don't like the control scheme. You actually control with WASD, and you basically like hover where you want to fire your where you want to auto attack fire your weapons.
If you could put a percentage from 0 to 100, how much of it is reused assets from the rest of the game?
Gameplay wise or graphics wise?
Just the whole thing.
And gameplay wise, I'd say I don't know, 15%. Assets wise, probably 75%.
Yeah.
Like they're using a lot of the same graphics, particles, terrain type of stuff. But it's a completely new type of gameplay. And you know what? Compared to some of the events that we've had between seasons like 9 and 12 in particular, where like all the events were like, we're going to have a battle pass, and we're going to make some new skins, and we're going to have some shitty visual novel where we have the player like read thousands and thousands of words of completely useless text where characters say the same thing over and over and over in slightly different ways, and then make a choice that doesn't matter, and the NPCs all ignore their choice and then just keep saying what they were going to say anyway.
They've actually done that. I mean, I try my utmost best to ignore all of the optional stuff.
That was what almost all the events were like for a few years there. It was really bad. And so compared to that, I think that like what they did with the Samira like fighting tournament and this Vampire Survivors thing, I applaud it. I think it's a lot better. I still wish they would feed really more into let's make League of Legends gameplay, but reimagined. Like they did with Invasion and Odyssey, like they did with Dark Star. Like they did with the different like arena modes. I forget what it was called, where there were a bunch of different like assassins and ADC like along the rooftops. I always liked those, and I know they were a lot of effort. But if they're not going to give us those, I think that creative Vampire Survivors is still pretty nice.
Nah.
Look, it's a lot better than some shitty visual novel.
I'm sure it is. I think the dumbest thing Riot tries to do is just do anything like bigger than League of Legends or outside of League of Legends, you know?
I feel like they've got to keep trying to take swings, because occasionally you're going to hit the home run. Arena, for example, home run.
I think they think League of Legends is like. They don't realize that League of Legends was like the lightning in the bottle, and they think League of Legends is the equivalent of like what Warcraft 1 to 3 was to WoW. They think like League is some kind of cornerstone at which they can spawn all of these miraculous lore-rich things, but they don't realize that Warcraft 1 through 3 were incredibly like well done stories with incredibly like deep characters and stuff, and League of Legends is a joke when it comes to lore, and they think that's a premise to actually make fuck all worth anything.
I think what League's strengths are it has a very, very passionate community. It has a very good game design, and it has a huge roster of characters, right? And I think that the way they kind of moved into like the Riot Forge project, which were all those other like kind of like things that they made in collaboration with indies and different genres. The problem was that they didn't tap on their big roster of characters. Each game would only have a couple of characters, and it would usually star one character, one champion, and
Yeah.
then maybe have 3 or 4 others working as allies or important storyline people.
I don't think the
But like,
solution is making like Game of Thrones for League of Legends.
you think that is or isn't?
I don't think that's the solution.
I think like their fighting game project, where they just canceled, right, was a good idea because it was something that could support a really large roster. I think anything that they want to make, right? Because like Legends of Runeterra, that's the name of the card game, right? That became a very popular game. It wasn't that profitable for them because they couldn't figure out a great business model for it. But that became a very popular game because like your favorite champs were gonna be in that game, and you were gonna be able to see them in a different form. I think that it's like a good idea, right? They have good game designers that can do more than just a MOBA. Like they understand the concepts of good game design. I think the problem is you really need to go all in on making it easy for your passionate community to access these other games, right? Don't put a paywall on it. Don't put it in a completely different software program. Like Legends of Runeterra still hasn't been integrated, I don't think, into the client, right?
Who the
I
hell
think
knows?
they're working on, I think, trying to get that done. But yeah, that's kind of the problem. It's not easy to access some of these other projects, and they don't take advantage of the full roster of characters. And I think that was the fatal blow to some of the projects. Which were well intentioned and which were good games. They were. I don't think that League has put out like a terrible game yet. Some people would say League is a terrible game. But no, I don't think so. I think that all of Riot's projects honestly have been pretty good games.
If anything's terrible, it's got to be that Valorant thing. That's
I mean,
like the
people
most
like
derivative thing they've like put out of all of it.
Here's the thing: almost everything they have put out is derivative. It's just like a better form of what was really popular, right? Like Valorant is a very good form of the Team Fortress formula. I don't know if you've ever watched. I've never played Valorant. With my photosensitivity, I'm probably never going to. Um, but
I'd say it's more of a ripoff of Overwatch, which in turn was a ripoff of Team Fight Fortress 2.
but I have, keeping a very good distance from my computer, I have watched people play Valorant, and it does look fun.
Alright. Let's move on. Do you already have her window open?
I don't, but I can do that quite easily. You don't need to link me.
Okay. Next up, we've got the brand new champion, Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of those new bird bunny people that they made up a couple years ago that they
Is she actually a Vestian? I thought she was just like cosplaying.
that they retconned Rengar into.
She's legitimately a Vestian.
Well, she's got the stupid bird feet too, and the ears. So Zaya's got the ears and the feet too.
I thought she was just a weirdo that was like cosplaying this whole time. Okay.
Yeah, her ears are so like out of. I don't know. Zaya's are less unassuming, you know.
I think they call that a Kurobo Mimi in Japan.
Whatever. Anyway, what should we talk about first? This is a...
All right, let's just talk about like what she's supposed to be, right? So she is a very mobile mage. Kind of seems to have a poke pattern. She can all in, but she's not going to like burst someone all at once like Annie will. It's more of like a try and win a fight over a few seconds. I would say her besides the whole like I'm a ghost hunter paranormal type of thing. I think that the most interesting or the most like obvious thing about her is that she's a lot more mobile than most mages are.
Yeah, I've messed around with her a little bit. To me, she kind of feels like a cross between... shit, I forgot what her name was.
Maybe Vex?
No, not Vex.
No?
The really annoying little girl.
Zoe?
Yeah, a cross between Zoe and kind of like Rise. She's kind of like a battle mage, but like you said, she does have a lot of mobility. But she also has like a lot of burst damage at the same time. So
I don't know that I agree with that. She doesn't have the she's not trying to stay close to other champions.
well, her buttons are kind of close range.
Yeah, she doesn't have real long range on her skills, but she's trying to, I think, like get in and get out, almost like an Akali or something like that. Not that she plays similarly to Akali, but that same pattern of getting in and out, rather than Rise, who's actually trying to walk up and basically tank a bunch of hits while dealing a lot of damage with his abilities.
Kind of like Lilia too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
And the thing about the Zoe comparison, she definitely looks like Zoe. But Zoe has incredible range on her abilities. Zoe doesn't truly have mobility. The only time she has mobility is when she's trying to increase the range of one of her abilities, and then she has to jump right back to where she was in the first place, getting 0 movement for about 1 second.
well, her W gives her movement speed too.
I suppose so. I think of her almost... This is gonna seem like a weird comparison, but try to follow me here. I think of her almost like a mobile Vel'Koz, in the way that she's using her abilities very frequently, kind of trying to take you down a little at a time, and then the ultimate is meant to doom you. Obviously, like, Vel'Koz has much higher range. He's an artillery mage. Aurora has shorter range, but much more mobility to make up for it. I'm gonna call her a mobile Vel'Koz. I know it's a weird comparison. So why don't we go through ability by ability and talk about what she does, because this is an interesting champ.
I like her. So first up, we've got her passive, and she can auto you, or she can hit you with abilities. It's another one of those 3-stack things you're always complaining about. Her auto attacks feel really nice, so you're definitely going to be weaving those in, similar to Orianna, or you're not going to be detonating your passive nearly as much. Now, the first part of her passive is a lot like Brand's, except I think hers is honestly a lot more devastating in terms of max health damage in the late game, whereas Brand's doesn't actually scale with AP only level. The max health damage part of his, the Ablaze thing does though. But hers, you can get this thing up to like 15% of like someone's max health. It's actually pretty crazy. And there's no like static cooldown on it, so you can pop this thing a couple times.
It's reasonable to pop this twice in a fight. If you're popping it more than twice, you've probably killed them already.
Exactly. Yeah, her ratios are pretty generous. And then the second half of this is when she does trigger this on someone, she becomes a little ghostier, a little ghost follows around. I've messed around with this in numbers. The sustain never really gets to a point where you even really notice it. It's just kind of nice, it's something just like the rune we were complaining about. You'd really only notice this in the laning phase. Even if you have like 600 AP, this thing never gets to like even 40 a second. So you're only ever going to get like chump change out of the sustain. Now, that's not the case for the movement speed. Her movement speed can get absolutely bonkers. The first time I tried her, I straight up was running Celerity and Phase Rush because I knew it felt like she could be one of those champions, like kind of like Lilia. And I do think she's pretty battle magey. That's just my personal take on messing around with her a few times. And she can get some unreal movement speed out of her passive. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so how long do the spirits last? Is that only until Realm Hopper wears off?
They only last 4 seconds, I think, individually. But if you keep like getting a new one, they keep going, I guess.
Right, but if you don't keep refreshing Realm Hopper, the spirits will disappear.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they don't
so
like
it's very
they don't
hard
like
to have four.
they don't like stack or anything.
Right.
If you pop it on like 3 champions, you don't get like 12 seconds of this or something.
Right. Yeah, I mean the movement speed is pretty nice, and it sounds like you're saying that that's the most important part of Realm Hopper.
Oh, it's even sillier than Lilia's Q. The amount of movement speed she gets is actually maybe it's just as crazy because Lilia is pretty damn quick. Yeah, she's pretty damn quick. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of 3-stack passive. I think this is a little bit stupid, or not stupid, just a little bit lazy. Like they didn't have another really good idea for what they could do to give her extra damage. Whatever. Like the movement speed is pretty cool. The heal, when I look at it, it looks like it's a little better than you think it is. But yeah, that's probably because I'm looking at the maximum with 4 spirits, and that would be very hard to get. Yeah, for each spirit, 3 to 20, that's nothing. You're right. Basically, like the movement speed is the most interesting part of this, and the 3-hit maximum health damage, while really lazy and boring, is certainly not to be slept on.
She has a really nice auto attack animation. I'm glad doesn't feel as sluggish as a lot of the mages of the past. So you're definitely going to be getting that last stack or that first stack with like her little wand that she like zip like Harry Potter at people.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to. I don't think they're ever going to make a champion with like a really like clumsy auto attack animation.
Well, they still haven't given Karthus a nice one. And I know that's because he has his Q, but his is
like
pathetic.
I said, they're never going to make a new champion with a clumsy auto attack again, right?
I don't think so. But I think even in the modern era, I feel like they go out of their way to make some feel not as like responsive and sleek as others.
Like who?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's some that just have really fast reactive ones, and there's some that
even Renata Glass has a reasonably, responsive auto attack animation.
Is hers even a projectile?
I think so.
I don't know. Whatever. So the gist of it is, this thing is just the burst on this thing is but redonkulous in the late game. I mean, it is. Obviously, you're not going to get it in as many people as Brand can manage to get it, but for like single target damage, this thing's redonkulous. Okay, let's move on to the Q, which is like her bread and butter kind of thing, and the scaling is very generous. If you get both parts of this, it's like 100% AP. This is
80.
Definitely...
oh no, is it more?
Well, the first part's 40, the second part, the return, is 60.
60% AP? Where are you getting that?
Where am I getting what?
Where are you getting the 60 from?
Maybe I'm full of shit. Well, regardless...
Okay, 40 and then 40. Oh, okay. And then for each additional bolt. So how many bolts does it fire up?
How many bolts? It just goes...
Oh, it's just one bolt. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes through once, and then it marks everyone, and then you can recast it, and then all the bolts come back towards her.
With several bolts. Okay, so for each one, it's 8%. And it's actually not clear how many bolts there are. But yeah, I was watching some gameplay videos, and it looks like if you line yourself up and kind of fire it through the target that you hit, it looked like it was doing quite a lot of damage.
Yeah, something about these numbers don't look right. It definitely does at least 100. under the right circumstances.
Well, yeah, it's 40 on the out, 40 back on the 40 on the back, and then for each additional bolt that passes through, it's kind of like Graves autos. Each one will do like a little bit extra. So I think you can get above 100 if you get all the bolts through an enemy.
Okay, I think I understand what this means now. I was only fighting against one bot, but based on when I was killing all the minions and stuff, there's a little when you do the second recast, a little projectile comes out of all of the things, so everything that would be in the way of all the bolts that get recalled would get hit by it. So
if they're standing very close to you and you're and the minion wave is kind of beyond that, and you hit the whole minion wave as well as them, then you can fire it back and hit them with a lot of extra bolts.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is not to be slept on as a wave clear tool either. I mean, you're always going to max this first.
It's very clear that this was used to be like echo levels of annoying in terms of wave clear.
Yeah. Yeah, very good wave clear. Even at 50% on the recast.
Alright, this next one is pretty simple. It has a cool animation. It looks just like Zoe's, where she jumps in a portal, kind of, except she just goes invisible, and then she activates her passive, but not the sustain portion, only the movement speed portion. She doesn't get the heal. She only gets the part that gives her whatever the movement speed is currently.
And I played against this several times. I played against and with, I guess, a couple of times as well, Auroras in arena mode. And when they were going invisible, it was giving me conniptions. It was very hard to actually, it feels like it's more than a second, even if it's not ranked up. It's very hard to actually figure out what they're doing or where they're going. What breaks invisibility? Is that when they use like an attack skill or I don't even think if you get near them, it breaks the invisibility, right?
No, because it's not that camouflage. It's straight up stealth, like Shaco, you know?
Yeah. So, I think if she uses like a damaging ability, it does break it, right?
Anything breaks it. It doesn't say it here, but using items probably breaks it too.
Okay. But yeah, it's really good for movement, repositioning, and not only getting out of bad situations, but also repositioning in a fight to where not only you can use your Q more effectively, but also you're going to be able to, get into a position where your opponent won't be able to use their skill shots on you as well. For example, you can get out of range where Poppy would be able to slam you into a wall, just as one out of many examples. By going invisible. It's a useful skill. It's still probably the last one you want to max, because it doesn't deal damage.
Yep, exactly. At first, I actually thought this was healing me the whole time, and it didn't occur to me for quite a while that it wasn't doing the full part of the passive. Because I was kind of thinking like, oh, okay, you can just dip in this, and then get a little bit of a heal or something, but no, just the movement speed.
Right. I mean, if your spirits are already ticking you, you'll be healing while you're in it.
Yeah, but that'd be true if you didn't use it.
It's very true. Although, this is almost like free time that you're unlikely to be hit.
Alright, next up, we've got another damaging ability with another incredibly high ratio and some good base damage.
Name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a dumb name for what it does and what it looks like, because it's just a pretty straightforward. It's not as long as her Q, and it's kind of like Hui's his QE, where the jaws come together and they grab you and push you towards the middle. It's kind of like that, but much faster and a little thinner, where these two little ice walls kind of quickly squeeze you in towards the middle and just slow you very briefly. And like Caitlyn, it makes her go backwards, but it doesn't quite feel as responsive or as quick as Caitlyn's.
I mean, it's also like a Vel'Koz W, I think.
Well, it's not a knockup. It's not hard CC.
No, W, not an E.
Oh, you're no,
Where it
yeah,
goes
you're
down
right.
the line, and then a second later it activates on everything in that line.
Yes, that's kind of what it looks like, but it
Uh,
does more damage. And it's way more responsive than that.
yeah, and what's kind of cool about this is that it also is extra mobility. You get to send yourself back almost like a Caitlyn net. You get to send yourself back in the opposite direction, so you can use this for additional repositioning. Kind of cool.
Yeah, so trick would probably be is you just like W forward, get them with this, and then they're
Uh-huh.
slowed for the Q.
Yeah, and you can also get yourself back out of range if they're like a melee that you're hitting. Once you've W'd forward, you can shoot them with this. Probably want to use your Q first, and then you use this. Anyway, I really like this skill. Aside from its name, the Weirding. This is just, I think, a really well designed skill. Damage, counterplay, repositioning. It's perfect. Chef's kiss.
Yep. And then lastly, we move on to the ultimate, which is a bit odd, but it actually took me a while to realize everything that was going on. I feel like there's a lot more text in this than is necessary, almost, to be honest. It's kind of like Camille's ultimate, but instead of the absolutely like can't get out under any circumstances like Camille's, instead is there's no way to get out unless you have like a blink or something that acts like a blink. Any kind of movement, a dash that's just like fast movement, will just force you back to the center and give you like a slow. So the only way to escape it is something that's instantaneous, like
or blink out. Yeah.
Shunpo or something. Yeah.
Ezreal. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't have as much AP like Kablooey as you might have thought for something like this, but it's good enough. The base damage is good. When I was playing around with it, I feel like it should have lasted a little longer for like its kind of lighter restrictions and the fact that yeah, it feels like it doesn't last long enough. Like when Camille first came out, her ultimate could last like 7 seconds. That's probably why this one already only lasts 3 to 4 seconds because of Camille's nerfs to her ultimate.
Yeah, this is 3 to 4 seconds, and I think that most of the time, like that's enough for Aurora, especially with an ally, to just completely murk someone.
Yeah, and then it has the added bonus of if she ever touches a corner, she just gets immediately teleported to the adjacent corner.
Yeah, that's really cool. So,
which is funny.
Is there any cooldown on that?
No, but you can only do it like twice before it times out, basically.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Not only can you make yourself, very hard to hit while you're in that. If you need to buy time for allies to get there, almost think of it like a Zanius. But you can also reposition to make it easier to chase the enemy after the realm times out.
There is a bit of a mind game, I realized right away, though. If you're like in your W, I mean, there's no way to know if you bounced into the wall and you're on the other side right away, or if you just stood still because you're invisible.
The one thing I haven't been able to figure out by playing against her or by watching a gameplay video is like, how big is the radius on the damage? Like, how easy is it for an opponent to try and avoid that?
Oh, it's impossible.
Okay,
It's
extremely hard.
it's like 3 times the size of Malphite's ultimate.
The damage, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And the hitbox, she can only target it basically like 200 units in front of herself, or any direction centered on herself. And the circle is absolutely massive. I'd say it's about 3 times the circumference of Malphite's ultimate.
How big is it compared to the rift itself?
Oh, they're like the same size.
Oh wow, so it's as big as the arena.
Yeah.
Oh god, okay.
Yeah, you literally can't miss this thing.
Like when I was getting targeted, I was looking for like what's the part of the arena I can get into where it's not, and I couldn't see anything, and I'm like, I'm just not seeing this correctly. Okay, it's the whole arena? God, wow. Okay. So yeah, 500 base damage, even with only 65% AP. Who cares, right? Like, they're stuck in the arena where you're going to be able to pretty easily nail them with your Q and E. 500 base damage at level 16, 250 at level 6. This is very, very powerful.
The only thing that would make this even crazier is if it somehow did damage twice, so it triggered her passive a second time.
Oh god, no, that's too crazy.
That would be over the top, though.
Ooh, crazy.
There's another thing. If someone tries to enter from the outside, they get bounced out too.
Oh, they get bounced out. Okay,
unless
so
they
no
blink. Unless they blink in too.
Now that's and that's only your enemies, right? Your allies can just walk through it normally?
I don't know, actually. Presumably, but I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. I've had Auroras on my team, and I didn't notice it doing anything weird to me. So yeah, I think allies just walk through it normally. Aurora gets the teleportation from one side to the other. And enemies get bounced in or out.
It says right here, Aurora and enemies within the rift are trapped inside.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think allies just kind of normally move through the walls. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how it works.
That would make sense.
A lot of usefulness for picking enemy champions. A lot of usefulness for just your 1v1 to try and finish someone off once you've gotten good poke off with your Q or your E. You know. Also, you know, the fact that you're getting a leap to start it, and the fact that you're getting more movement speed in, means that it's not to be slept on as an escape tool. If you can use it near your turret, or if you can use it just to get that small leap, and then you can always end it early. There's a lot of uses for this. It's a powerful tool.
I didn't even notice this part. It says you get double the bonus movement speed from her passive. I'm not kidding. That movement speed you get from her passive is ridiculous.
So I was saying, it's like it's genuinely like a good escape tool as well.
I was running Phase Rush and Celerity. You just fucking take off like some coked up jackrabbit with that passive on, dude.
And remember that when you're invisible, you can take better advantage of that movement speed, even if they have a general idea of where you might be going, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you can get so much of a distance delta, and, you know, obviously get out of range of melees, but even get out of range of, like, you know, short-range mages.
And don't forget, it resets, too, like everything these days, on takedown.
Yeah. One other thing that I saw in a video was that the W, I just want to go back to that, I forgot to mention this. You can get over a lot of different walls with this, even though it's not a super long-range skill. The 450 is, so it's a 300 range dash, which is, I don't even know if it's truly a dash, it's more of a blink, right?
No, it's a dash.
It's a dash, okay. But, yeah, it's a 300 range dash normally, but it's increased to a generous 450 across terrain, so you can actually get over a lot of walls that you might not be able to think you'd be able to make it over. So, yeah, just wanted to mention that with the W, as we were talking about, you know, escaping and speed and whatever. I don't really have much else to say about the ult, but I think this is a champion that really, all of the different parts of her kit work well together. And I think if we're going to take another opportunity to smash one out of Glask, unlike Glask, this is really like a well-thought-out kit that doesn't just have a couple of cool tools mixed in with filler. Aside from the innate, I like every single part of this kit, and I think it works together well. It creates a type of mage we almost never see, which is like an actual non-battle mage, non-assassin, but an actual just a non-burst mage, right? Just an actual like old school style, hit him with a lot of abilities type of mage. That uses speed and kiting as important tools. I can't think of any other champion in the game offhand that does that. Zoe to some extent, but she's really more of like a single like burst combo. I can't think of any champ that's quite like Aurora. And for that reason, I have to say, I think they've done a very good job with her.
No, I'm telling you, she feels very battle magey. Like, I feel like you'd get, like, Rod of Ages and, like, Cosmic Drive on her or something.
I can see the comparison, right? I can see the comparison in the sense that almost like she's like Lilia, right? She wants to get in and out a bunch of times and keep using her abilities.
Yeah.
And to that extent, right, not totally unlike a battle mage like Ryze or Cassiopeia, but those champions do it more by being tanky and by like just like building up scaling items as the game goes on. Aurora can do that. But I feel like she's more about kiting, right? She almost plays a little bit more like an ADC in terms of the way that she moves, whereas she plays more like a mage in terms of like the damage patterns. Right? I think that like especially Cassiopeia, right, actually plays like an ADC in terms of the damage patterns too. I think they have done a good job putting her in a unique position and one that people would like to play very much, right? You can come up with a unique position like Renata Glask that just isn't that interesting or fun to play. This, I think, is something a lot of people will want to play.
Yeah,
You know,
when Vex came out, I wasn't really interested in playing her whatsoever, and I'm still not. But having messed around with
fine.
her,
Uh-huh.
she seems like someone I might actually like to play. So
I think Vex was a fine champion. I think Vex definitely has her fans, and is fairly fun to play.
I like her design. I just don't like playing her personally. She doesn't speak to me. In fact, I got to be honest. I think just about all the mages that have come out in the last few years, none of them have really spoken to me since the Swain rework. That's the last one I really liked. And then, of course, the Aurelion Soul rework.
Yeah, I don't think they've done a great job with mages in general in the last few years. I think Quay was kind of a little bit of a failure.
I don't
For
think he's a
example.
failure. Just on a personal level, I don't care for him.
Yeah, I don't know that he's a failure in terms of, like, I think he has a place on the Rift, but I
I
just
think
don't
he's good. I just
that-
don't like him personally.
Yeah, I don't think he's designed for most of League players, right? Like, we don't want to be thinking about 9 different combos to hit with our basic abilities. It's just when there's already so much going on, right? You want the interface to be extremely intuitive. You want to know what you're gonna do at every moment, and it's all about how are you gonna play it with what's happening around you. I think that Aurora is a much better example of that. And overall, I'm very positive on her. If there's anything that I don't like, first of all, it's that passive, right? Kind of a very lazy damage passive they could have made more interesting.
That's the
Second
part
of
of her
all,
kit I think will get nerfed, honestly.
I hope so. I hope that they buff other parts and nerf that. Second of all, um, I have found it very hard to kind of actually identify her. I don't think that her outline is quite, her silhouette or her outline is quite unique enough. So it can be really easy to confuse her with other champions. Anything from Fiora to Lux, she can look a lot like.
They probably just started with one of those champions and just changed it, knowing Riot.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully they haven't lost this design tenet over time. But for a long time, like the designers talked about, it's very important to give each champion a unique outline. There's well over 100 champions in the game. Even at that time, there were over 100. You want to be able to know, when you actually see a champion, you want to know immediately what could they possibly do to you. How are you going to fight them? And so, not having a unique silhouette is a little bit of a criticism that I will give it. Also, while at least her voice lines actually seem like they're pretty okay, I think that this whole, like, I'm a paranormal ghost hunter is very much like trying to key in on the zeitgeist of 2024 without actually understanding, what people who are paranormal hunters. I mean, I don't believe in any of that, but but like real people who are like paranormal hunters actually kind of are or feel like they are. It's a little bit try hard or wannabe.
Yeah, I really don't listen to the soundboards anymore unless the champion actually looks really cool, like Mordekaiser or something.
They actually like for as gimmicky and as like let's make fun of it like they did with Vex, as they did with the concept on Aurora. At least like the voice lines are not that like stereotypical or annoying. I think they did a better job writing her than they did for someone like Vex.
Best thing I can say is I'm not really hugely insulted by what this champion looks like based on what they do, and that's about the most I can hope for with the way they have these cutesy, goofy feminine,
Yeah.
weirdo-looking champs these days. So
Yeah. But 4 really cool abilities out of 4 in terms of the active abilities. A really coherent kit. A unique identity that is very different, or at least somewhat different from anything else, that a champion has in League, and really is, I think, the type of champion that a lot of people will want to play. Will they be good at her? I have no idea. But I think that what she can do is really appealing. Right? I think that the idea of like always playing on the edge and moving around and going invisible and blasting people with magic every few seconds like you're some killer bunny, right? I think that all of that just sublimely comes together into a really good champion. Also not overly complicated, right? Except for the passive, right? Most of what she's doing, you know what she's doing as the player that's playing her and as the player that's playing against her. Nothing overly complex. Nothing that requires 21 different lines of text to really explain. Granted, the ultimate has all those lines of text, but doesn't really need them. Just absolutely brilliant in its design. I'm gonna give her a 9 out of 10.
that's pretty high, man.
I think that's the highest I've given any champion to date.
I don't know if I can give it a 9, man. That's like Aurelion Soul rework levels, man. 9's pretty high.
No, Aurelion Soul rework levels is 5.5.
I'm gonna give her an 8 out of 10 because a 9 is too high, but an 8 for me is probably like a 5 for you. So my standards are a little higher, I think.
No, I think usually an 8 for me is a 5 for you. You keep calling me the apologist. Well, either way.
Yeah, I'm very happy with this.
Either way, yeah, I just think my complaints are pretty minor. Design-wise, they nailed it in a way that I don't think they've nailed it on a new champion in years.
Oh, there's been a couple bangers. I think
Some really good ones, but I think even some of the really good ones, that they had parts of their kit that didn't quite work well with the rest of their kit. There was maybe one skill that was a little bit off. Or there were things that were way too gimmicky. There were things that were game health issues.
I think
They've
some of
every single one. Go on.
some of the best ones of like the last 3 or 4 years are like Set, Yone, and Bel'Veth, in my opinion.
It's going back to several years now. I think maybe
2008, 3 or 4 years. I don't know.
Yeah. Set was a pretty good one. Bel'Veth, I don't think they nailed it with Bel'Veth as much as you think they did. Yone, definitely not. Yone's a fucking trasho, brother.
Well, just because he's like got a rep doesn't mean his kit and his design isn't super cool, man.
It's not uninteresting, but it has real game health issues. Aurora just, chef's kiss on the design, and the only criticisms I really have are over the, little things in the visual and the lore. As well as like one lazy passive, that's not damning. Best champion they've made in years. I think best champion they've made since Lilia. I'm gonna go that far.
I don't know about that. Set was pretty damn good.
Fair, yeah, Set's good. Set's good. Like reasonable men can differ, right? We're saying like, is it a 9? Is it an 8? I'd be fine with giving an 8 out of 10 too. I just really like the identity, the gameplay identity here, and I'm looking forward to getting to learn her. I don't think I'm ever gonna be real good at her, just because I don't usually take like the perfect advantage of like several different movement skills on a champion. But man, I still want to.
All right, one last thing.
Yeah.
If Lethal Tempo was still in the game, she would definitely see some top play just by nature of the fact that she can apply her passive with her auto attacks.
Actually, I watched a gameplay video where she was playing top and doing very well.
Yeah, that's my point. Her auto attacks make her passive a lot more annoying than they could possibly be. But what I was really going to ask is, what are the support implications? Because anything that goes mid is going to get a nod support. You know.
Well, I've heard of her playing jungle as well. Obviously, I think mid is probably her core role. I think we might see more top of her than you expect. Same kind of thing with Lilia. Support
Yeah.
implications. I think as a mage support, she'll be fine, right? Like being able to hit multiple targets with like twofold hex is cool. She doesn't really have a lot of CC, which is why I'd probably rather have like a Zyra as my support than an Aurora. The fact that she's very mobile and is not going to have to give away a lot of kills is nice for a support. But yeah, just the fact that she doesn't bring a lot of CC. She just has, I think, the one slow and the arena, right?
Yep.
I think she is not going to be a really good support. I think we might see people try to play her support, especially early on. And I think it is nice that, kind of like Pyke, right? She's not going to have to give up many kills to get her things done.
So here's what I'm thinking, man. I'm thinking,
really...
long as she's got that 4% baseline on her passive, I think she'll be like a threat on support. And you know why? Because you're going to see...
4%'s nothing, right? Like, you want a lot of AP, and can a support build as much AP? Honestly, occasionally they can, right? If a support gets ahead, even with assist, they're going to be able to build AP.
I would say it was nothing if there was like a static cooldown on target, but the fact that she can pop it as fast as she's capable, I think opens up like new things, and that's why I was going to say wait for it. Wait for it. This is my prediction. Hail of Blades support Aurora.
What's that going to do for her?
It's going to let her trigger a passive like more often.
Does that apply more stacks, or does it just like give you more attack speed?
Both.
Okay. It'll let her get more stacks with I'm saying, does it like there's no like extra like on hit on the Hail of Blades, right?
No, it'll let her trigger a passive more often.
Right. It would. I mean, that's interesting. Do you think that it's going to be a Hail of Blades Aurora building attack speed, or should she just build pure AP?
No, so still build AP.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the value of it. I don't think it's enough to compensate for like what she'd lose from the blue runes. Yeah, I don't think it's enough, but it is an interesting idea. My instinct is she's probably going to be played mid the most. Maybe top the second most, and then you'll see like a smattering of jungle and support. I mean, you could probably see her in all 5 roles, right? There's no reason that with a kit like this she couldn't play APC, as long as you have physical damage somewhere else on your team. Well, she actually does put out the consistent damage, unlike a lot of other mages.
Thing is, I think she could play AP carry bot. I don't think she's going to actually be that good mid, because I don't actually think she is going to be very strong in the early game if she's by herself. I think she has tremendous scaling. I think she's going to be very strong like mid to late game. But with the type of things that you have to consistently like play against mid lane, I don't think she's actually going to be very good mid lane.
I'm going to disagree with you, and I think that all your points are salient. But the reason I think she still will be good in mid lane is because A, like you said, she can scale very well. But B, even though she may not be a lane bully, all of her escapability means she will be almost impossible to successfully gank if she's played correctly. And I think that if you have a very safe mid laner that can scale very well into the late game, that's absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah, she does have a lot of sneakiness, and throw some ghost in there while you're at it to add to the silliness of her passive. That's what I was running for my first time, was Phase, Rest, Ghost, Celerity. Because it just felt... it felt
going
like...
back to like what we were talking about several months ago with the ADC, like speedy Doom build.
Well, that when I first read her abilities, it just screamed like Battle Mage Lilia Rise to me. So I was like, I looked at her passive and I'm like, well, I think if she's even more elusive and even more annoying to catch, and she's weaving in more, and her auto feels so nice. That's why I say it. And her auto feels like it could just be another Q almost.
That would be really interesting to see, particularly with a top lane Aurora. I think when you're playing her mid lane, you don't need that. Just a couple of dashes and you're already back at your turret. Or at the opponent's turret. But top lane Aurora, I could see actually like the Speedy Doom build against melee champions being really effective.
And don't
Yeah,
forget Cosmic Drive.
I'm not gonna forget Cosmic Drive. That's actually one of my favorite items.
All right. I think that is more than enough for 14.14.
14 squared. Yeah, wasn't too crazy about a lot of the balance changes, but yeah, good new game mode, and this new champion is awesome. So should be good times on the Rift.
You have any predictions for she'll be buffed right away or nerfed right away?
She feels strong to me. I think that she's going to take some light nerfs over the next few patches. That's my prediction.
I'd
I
like to
think she came
believe
out in
that
the
they
teeth,
could
but
resist, like, actually keeping her unchanged for a few patches, but I agree with you.
yeah, I don't think we're gonna get anything as extreme as when you have like a really busted champion coming out. I think she's in a reasonably good place. I think that yeah, I think that maybe her ratios are a little bit high. I think we're gonna probably see, if I had to guess, less. This is just complete speculation. Less scaling on the invisibility time on Across the Veil. That's her W. And probably slightly lower AP ratios on either her passive or on one of her abilities. That's going to be my guess for like sometime in the next two patches.
My guess is just the base health shred on her passive is going to go down from 4% to 3.
I think they're going to take away from the base rather than the scaling. Interesting. All right. Let's see who's right, man.
Alright, let's get the hell out of here. This was way too damn long for such a short patch.
As usual, but thank you very much for hanging in there with us, and we'll see you on 1415.